Okay, so it's been a few days since I've done a fasting blog or vlog, and I just wanted to come back on here and give an update. I'm not really getting those twitching feelings in my legs anymore, so I'm good with that. One thing I decided to do was to take a bath with Epsom salts. I've been taking a few baths. I've got a lot of Epsom salts. It has magnesium in it. It's pretty good. Helps bring some of those electrolytes back into your body through absorbing through your skin. And so I've been doing that a little bit, taking some, and then you really have to take it easy. I've, like I said, I was walking, kind of a lot of brisk walking, and I slowed down a little bit, except for one day I took my kids to the zoo. But, my energy went down for a while and actually went back up. I feel a little bit more energetic now than I was earlier. You have to make sure you get a lot of rest, though. You may not sleep very well, though, in a fast. One thing that happens is your cortisol level goes higher, and when your cortisol level is higher, it's harder to sleep. I think I read one study where it doubles, and that's a lot of cortisol. So your stress hormone cortisol is twice as much, basically. Let's see, what else was I going to say? You have another thing is like people get excited about the weight loss. Like I said, it's not something you really do for weight loss. It's not necessarily very good at that. When you keep in mind how you're going to gain most of the weight back within a week or two of finishing. So, anyways, as far as the losing weight thing goes, you will during your fast, but you'll rapidly gain it back afterwards. I said before that you can work it out so that you do keep some of it off if you are very careful. Very, very, very careful. But you can look on YouTube and you can look at people's fasting videos, and people will do like really extensive fasts, like 40-day fasts, water fasts, and then you look at their videos a year later and they are the same exact size that they were before they did their 40-day fast. So it's, as far as weight loss, usually people gain it all back, usually, unless they really know what they're doing and they really have a lot of self-discipline. I think this stems from the fact that your metabolism slows down a great deal during your fast. For example, right now, I took my temperature not too long ago, and it was at 96.4 degrees, which is quite a bit lower than the my norm for body temperature, because my metabolism has slowed down. Your thyroid hormones slow down. They don't produce as much because your body's in a conservative mode. It believes that you are, in a long winter 100,000 years ago, and you don't have any food, and so it's conserving everything. It wants to conserve everything it has, all your fat stores, because it doesn't know how long you're going to be without food, because we have the same genetics basically we have had for 100,000 years, and this adaptation, this fasting adaptation, came from that period of time when we'd be in the winter or whatever, and there would be no food for often a couple months, and this adaptation is for that survival, and partially, yeah. And so basically, Dr. Furman says that post-fast is just as important as during your fast, and he says that 4 to 6 weeks after your fast, you have a slower metabolism, and that might even be it might even be longer than that. So you have to eat very conservatively for that period of time, and you have to do things to ramp up your metabolism. One thing I'll be doing is incorporating foods very slowly. I'm not going to just jump in and eat like all-you-can-eat buffet after I'm done with my fast, like a lot of people might want to. I'm going to start off, do some juices at first, move into some fruit and some other vegetables and stuff slowly, very slowly. And even after a week, I'm probably not even going to be eating what I normally would have eaten at the same time. Also starting, exercising, building back your muscle mass, because your metabolism is highly based off of how much muscle mass you have. The more muscle you have, the higher metabolism. The more fat you burn, the higher your metabolism is. So, building your muscles back, doing some resistance exercise is important after the fast, not during, after the fast. And so I'll be hitting the gym and doing some weightlifting, and you do lose a little bit of muscle during your fasting, even though the ketosis state you get into is a fat-burning state and a muscle-sparing state. You do use some muscle. So I'll be trying to gain all the muscle back, and I'll be eating very conservatively, and I'll also be eating a salt, sugar, and oil-free whole foods plant-based diet, as advocated by the True North people like Alan Goldhammer and Dr. Clapper. Those folks, watch a lot of their videos. So that, I think, will help me keep from damaging my body with the pleasure trap. Yeah, that's a book that you should check out if you get a chance. As far as your diet goes, one thing I haven't mentioned previously is that previous to fasting, it's very important to have a very clean diet. Don't go straight into fasting if you've been eating pizza every day and caramel covered ice cream. You'll be in trouble. The one thing is that when you fast, you get a lot of you experience a cleansing in your body, and some people have like a cleansing crisis where they have really bad experiences, and so a lot of that is based on what how much cleansing your body needs. Now, as far as me, I don't really have a lot of those bad effects that I read about and have heard about from other people, where they get really sick and terrible. Mostly with my fasts that I've done, I just have to be careful not to get up too quickly. Let's see what else. I don't have a lot of really negative, my armpits smell a little bit more. I think I'm cleaning up, my body, what my body is putting more stuff in that area, and I have to wash it more vigorously. Normally, because I eat a plant-based diet, I don't really, as long as I'm taking a shower every 2 days, I don't even need to use deodorant. because I've noticed in the past when I've eaten even just a vegetarian diet where I was eating dairy, that wasn't the case. I would have to use deodorant every single day. But as soon as I cut out the dairy, and obviously no meat, obviously the meat would make you smell, I don't really have much body odor if I'm clean, Obviously, if you don't, clean yourself, if you have go 5 days without showering, you're going to stink regardless of what you're eating. But I noticed that if I'm eating like a plant-based diet, or pretty much like when I like to say plant-based, not vegan, because there's a lot of vegan is such a loaded word, but plant-based diet, which is for all intents and purposes it's vegan. But anyways, I don't really stink in my armpits and stuff like that. Who knows if I was? Obviously it depends on the scenario. Like if you are, there's different places you can live and environments, but at least in my situation, I noticed that I didn't have to do that as long as I'm eating that plant-based diet. It's good because there's chemicals in a lot of deodorants and stuff, and I like to try to find a deodorant that's doesn't have a lot of things like aluminum and stuff in them. Just if I do use one, I have a couple sticks and they've lasted me like years because I literally don't need the stuff. Anyways, so you go through cleansing. Sorry, I'm all over the place when you fast, and so the worse your diet is, the harder it's going to be. You're going to have a really tough time if you've been eating crappy. Another thing to think about: if you're not getting all your nutrients, if you don't have a good store before you fast, you could run into deficiencies during your fast. Particularly some B vitamins, minerals. If they've I saw one clinical case study of someone getting Wernicke's encephalopathy, which is basically a brain dysfunction, brain disorder that comes about from a thiamine deficiency. Okay, so your B vitamins are particularly important. If you're not getting your B vitamins up until your fast, you could run into some problems like that. Other things are if you're not getting your electrolytes, you could have problems from fasting. You could be hypokalemic, hypophosphatemic. You could have hypomagnesemia. Okay, so these are things that are serious. And so if you don't have good nutrition before your fast, it's going to sabotage that fast, and you might have to come out of your fast. Like I was saying, I had some leg twitches, and if those had, not resolved, if those had gone into full-blown, really painful cramps, if you're not consuming anything, the problem's not going to go away. It's when you're not fasting, when you're in a regular nutritional intake, you have really intense cramps. Well, you're going to eat the next day or drink some, Gatorade or some coconut water. That's the more healthy version. And then you're going to resolve the situation. But if you're fasting, they're not going to stop. And your body's just going to really go crazy. And so you're going to just have to stop fasting. Especially because the most important muscle you have is your heart. And if your heart runs out of electrolytes, you just die. There's no, there's not much you can do. So this is important. If you eat like crap, you can't go into a fast. Like I said, you just can't do it. That's another importance of, medically supervised fasts. When you do a medically supervised fast, a lot of times they will do blood tests, and usually they'll do blood tests. Unless you're, like sometimes you're calling a health care professional, and that's different. But that's for people that know what they're doing, that this is not their first ball game kind of thing. Like for example, this is probably, I've fasted, if you count various forms of fasting I've done, I've done many water fasts, I've done many juice fasts, I've done, fasting of a religious nature, which is, I'm not talking about that because that's personal. But, I've done fasting of some form over 10 times. So, this is not my first ball game. And so, but, if someone was new to this, they shouldn't. I mean, it took me years just to even come to the knowledge where I'm at right now. And I'm not saying I'm some sort of guru or anything, but I just know my body enough to be able to do things without, going to like some retreat. Even though in the future, when I make more money, I will do that, because I think that that's the best case scenario. I will probably go to some place when my career is a little further along and I actually have the money, because your health insurance isn't going to cover something like fasting, even though it should, even though that is like 10 times better than a lot of medications that people could do that just mask symptoms and don't actually cure the underlying causes of their diseases. So right now I'm not going to like True North or some other fasting retreat place, but ideally that would happen. Ideally I wouldn't be watching a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old and watching my blood pressure go from 110/70 to 130/80 because I've been taking my blood pressure every day, and I've been watching it spike from my kids just being around me. And that's not the most restful state I could be in. So there are some flaws in the way I'm doing things, obviously. But, I think I have a pretty good grasp of things. And, my wife is finally on board. I've been fasting for years. And at first, when we first got married, she was like, "Oh my God, you're starving yourself. What is going on?" And she's like, she would be like, "Hey, I haven't eaten since 3 p.m. and I'm going crazy and I'm moody and I'm angry. And you haven't eaten in 5 days, and you're fine." And, there's been times where, initially when we were first married, where I broke a fast because it was too emotionally stressful for her for me to continue. And so it took me years to get her more on board, and I had to educate her. And so I would say when it comes to the talking to the people that you love, the people around you, as far as fasting goes, if they're not in your house, or you don't trust them a lot, or they are not somebody that gets it, don't tell them. I don't tell people I'm fasting that I don't know, or don't know, like my best of friends that are kind of that have a good mindset, they're very intelligent. People who are quick to judge and small-minded, they won't get it. People who don't understand science or are closed-minded won't get it. People who are some people who are very scientific actually won't get it, because they just they have read all the wrong science that and they make assumptions based on something that they saw in a book from 60 years ago that isn't true. So it's one thing about that. Like, for example, in Herbert Shelton's book, it talks about how people used to think that you would die if you went like 8 days without food, and then like some people did things like political prisoners and stuff did some like hunger fasts, and then they'd like ended up doing for like 40 days and they didn't die, and people were like, what? And so it was these assumptions people just assume because without knowledge of a situation, or maybe there's been times when people have had like been beaten and left in the desert and without food, and then they died after 8 days, and people go, oh well, you can only live 8 days without food. Well, you forget the fact that they were exposed to like 110 degrees of heat, and they had no water, and then they were in the sun, and then they were beaten, and they had like internal bleeding. So maybe that's but like Alan Goldhammer says that most people can live a couple months without any food, if they're just like average, like within your normal weight. Now that's not even considering obesity, and pretty much you're good to go until you, as far as your lean body mass, if you lose like 30% of 20-30% of your lean body mass, 30% of your fat, then you're in trouble. But if you lose, as far as your fat stores, it depends on how much you have. Like somebody that weighs 400 pounds, you would think, wow, that person could fast forever. That's not true, because you need to have lean body mass as well to fast, for it to be effective and to be healthy. And so somebody that is overweight, they could fast for longer typically than someone who is very thin, because they have all that body fat to work off of. But also, fasting also uses some of your muscle stores for various metabolic processes involved in ketosis and other things. And so without lean body mass, you can't do it in a way where it doesn't go into starvation. So, for example, somebody who looks overweight could have a lot of muscle, and they would be able to fast for 60 days, who knows, and 70 days. But then someone else who looks overweight might have very little muscle, and they might not be able to fast as long. They might be able to fast like 30 days without having to stop. One of the signs I've read in several sources is that sign that you need to stop. One sign, obviously there's many signs, is getting hungry again. Because I don't think I've touched on this. When you get in this state of ketosis, you don't feel hungry. You would think, God, man, this is like my 10th day, and I don't really feel hungry. I think about food a lot. And there's the mental concept of, man, it would really be nice to eat something, but I don't feel hunger, so to speak, in the traditional sense. And the ketosis shuts that down. So that's probably another reason why some people have had some success with the Atkins diet, even though the Atkins diet is I believe, based on lots of reading and research, that the Atkins diet leads to heart disease and cancer, basically. So I would never suggest people do it. But I do think that people do have success losing weight on it, because it lowers the ketosis state, lowers your hunger, and you do burn fat. You know. So anyways, what was I saying? Anything else? Yeah, I don't feel hungry. So I'm not sure how long I'm going to do this fast for. I've said previously 21 days is the aim. Maybe I'll go a little longer, maybe I'll go shorter, I don't know. I'm just feeling it out. I haven't had any bad effects yet. That means possibly I haven't been cleansing anything yet, and so I have to get a little deeper. Now I know that I've had all of my mercury fillings taken out of my mouth, and some of that mercury is stored in fat cells in my body because I think a couple chunks of mercury got swallowed. I've normal toxic exposure to everyday things in the American environment. I know I have some stuff to get rid of. I haven't seen any negative effects yet as far as this fast goes. As time goes on, we'll see how it goes. If I'm going to do 21 days, I'm 1 day short of, half day short of doing half of it right now. So, and also I eat a pretty decent diet. I have, at least for the past several months. So, like I said, I'm feeling okay right now. I haven't really had any kind of cleansing crisis. As far as what's happened in my body so far, I've lost weight. I mean, this has been pretty easy so far. I have felt a little like acidic in my stomach, and some people say that that's like bile or whatever going into your stomach, and I don't know. We'll see. So I'm a little concerned about that because that's a little uncomfortable. Sometimes I wonder if maybe like I'm reading, I get a little bit too obsessed over food and I think about food or I'm around food, and maybe that sets off some metabolic stuff in your body. Because I know that you see food and you'll start to produce saliva. Maybe there's a stomach aspect to that. Like maybe if I'm seeing all this food and smelling it in the kitchen or whatever, when kids are eating dinner, maybe that's making my stomach go, hey, we're going to get food soon. Yeah, let's make some acid. I don't know. I don't understand that aspect of things completely. So it could be several things. If you know, maybe comment below. Give me a tip or two if you are a fasting expert. Why I sometimes feel a little acidic. There's another thing I might possibly be the distilled water I've been drinking. I've been using distilled water almost exclusively. I've gone over some people's houses and had like some filtered water or whatever, and I had a little bit of city water accidentally. But overall, mostly distilled, 95% distilled water. And distilled water is slightly acidic, so that's something to look at. Maybe that could be why. I'm not sure. But that would be like so far the only effect I've gotten, and I'll definitely do another journal if I have more negative effects. Another thing I wanted to add, I know this video is really long, but I know this is my video. Medication. A lot of times people are on medication and depending on the medication, you can do some serious damage to yourself if you're fasting. this is like, when I go back to the thing I've been saying all along is talk to your doctor, talk to a doctor, talk to a health professional. If you have, obviously a chiropractor is not going to be able to advise you on medication because that's not part of their scope of practice. But, some medications can kill you if you're fasting. So, I'm not taking any medications. So, that is something that should be stated. That, I think that obviously I've been saying that, just water is what I'm doing. Other than the water. So, Dr. Furman talks about, because his book Fasting, his fasting book is, I believe it's kind of geared towards doctors. He's trying to get other doctors on board with this concept so that people don't have such a hard time being able to find a medical professional to assist them in this process. Because it's really few and far between, and then it costs, thousands of dollars to be able to go on a retreat and fast, and insurance won't cover it. So I think that book is trying to create a paradigm shift and trying to get more doctors on board with this concept and trying to change medicine, because this is something that can heal people. This is something that can overcome hypertension, something that can help overcome diabetes. This is something that can help overcome autoimmune disorders. This is something that can help overcome, our toxic environment, and it can help a lot of people. And but the majority of our Western medicine, our medical model, it's called medicine, for God's sakes. It's based upon giving people injections, pills, and surgery. It's called medicine. So that's something to think about, and hopefully in the future it will be more holistic. I think the seeds are planted, and we have some sprouts as far as changing things and making it better. But I think that there's a lot of socioeconomic, political resistance. And, anyways, I've been rambling on. This is a long video. I'm sorry. Thank you for anyone who actually sat through this. But anyways, if you want to subscribe, I'm going to be putting, my fasting videos, and ultimately I'm going to do lots of other things for health. And this is Healthseeker is my personal journey about personal things that I'm doing about my health. That's a little more intimate than my healthseeker.me account. And so hit subscribe and comment below.